Last week, we talked about using the online library at saka kung paano kumuha ng mga sources using the library, online library. Medyo mahirap kasi hindi tayo masyadong sanay pa. Tsaka nahihirapan tayo kasi walang masyadong lumalabas sa mga libraries natin. Pero hopefully, nakakapag-practice kayo. Tonight, we will be talking about paraphrasing and meal plan, constructing a paragraph using a meal plan. Okay? Good evening po again sa inyo lahat. Tonight, we will be using your Word, Microsoft Word, so you can do some paraphrasing. Let me share my screen. Some comments po as I was checking all your discussion posts, both sa comparative management and entrepreneurship, yung APA, we need to make sure that we really follow the APA strictly kasi there's no other way of doing it. Either you do it or you don't do it. Okay, I know di tayo masyadong sanay, pero what I would like for you to do actually is to just search on the website how to cite and how to write a reference section, and then just follow it. Pero next week we will practice more on APA. And another important thing that I need to point out is that whenever you use a direct quote, a copy and paste from the outside source and it's on quotation marks, make sure always to include the page number or the paragraph number. If it's online and there's no page number, you have to count how many paragraphs from the top, and then just write the paragraph number, PRAR dot and then the number. That's important because if you don't include the paragraph number or the page number, it is still considered plagiarism. It's really very strict. Okay, so if you include direct quotes, also include the page number or the paragraph number in the in-text citations. But as much as possible, as I have told you before and reminded you, please minimize direct quotations as much as possible. Paraphrase, and that's what we're going to do tonight, is paraphrasing. I want us to view a couple of tutorials on paraphrasing, and then we will do some practice. Let me know if you cannot hear the video.
Yes, sir.
What is paraphrasing and why does it matter? When we talk about paraphrasing, it is something that can easily feel abstract, especially because it is one of those words that is thrown around in writing communities or by instructors, when not everyone may know what it means. Essentially, paraphrasing is giving the key point of the author's idea in a new way. So, it's taking information you read and putting it in your own voice, using your own words and sentence structure, while still maintaining the original meaning of the information. Paraphrasing really gives you a deeper understanding of the source and a deeper understanding of the topic you're reading about, and shows that you are able to critically think about the topic. Paraphrasing is really being able to dig into a topic and re-articulate it in a new way that still maintains the foundation and original meaning of the source. In this way, paraphrasing is a powerful strategy for including evidence because it's an active way to integrate what sources are saying in your own writing.
Okay, there's another video, paraphrasing demonstration.
The process of paraphrasing can be difficult for many writers new to academic writing or learning in a new field. When writers find it difficult to paraphrase, one strategy is to use the following process. First, read the passage until you
Happened.
understand its meaning. Second, consider your purpose. What will you do with this evidence? Third, look away from the passage to write main points of what you read. Fourth, imagine explaining that main point to a classmate or coworker and write that explanation on the page. Fifth, double check your wording against the original and cite your source. However, you might be wondering, how do I use this process in practice? To help you use this process, let's watch one writer as they use this strategy and paraphrase a source. The writer is paraphrasing this highlighted sentence. Critical and operationally relevant information is now commonly exchanged via social media and other digital platforms that are well suited to delivering data directly to citizens and emergency management organizations, and to encouraging exchanges between them. The writer reads the quote multiple times to ensure they fully understand the main idea. The writer wants to include this information in their paragraph about how modern communication is more democratized. They consider the main points of the quote, summarizing it as such. Social media helps communication for disasters. We can also use social media to talk to these organizations. The writer thinks about how they'd express this main point to a coworker. They write the following. Social media and other online platforms are well suited to facilitate direct communication between citizens and emergency management organizations. The writer compares their paraphrase with the quote. They realize they use too much of the same phrasing, so the voice isn't really their own. They try again, this time writing the following. Emergency management organizations and citizens can easily communicate with one another through social media and other online platforms. This second paraphrase is in the writer's own voice, clearly representing the original source's main idea, but in their own way. The writer finishes their paraphrase by adding a citation, Meta et al., 2017.
All right. Why is it important to paraphrase? It is important to paraphrase because in academic writing, you need to submit your own original content or your own original work. If you paraphrase a source, that is also your original work, but you're just borrowing the idea. Okay, and when we run your paper or your discussion post on the anti-plagiarism software, I run it. At least you won't have too much of similarity percentages. It should be very low. Okay. When you submit your work, it has to be your own original content and your original work, even those borrowed phrases, borrowed sources, because you need to show your synthesis and critical thinking skills as a researcher, especially for PhD students, but actually even for MBA students and undergraduate students, because we are a research university, we need to be training our students to really paraphrase but not copy and paste. The rule of thumb that I learned from one of my previous professors is that the number of borrowed words that you use should equal the number of own words that you put in your discussion. For example, if I use a total of 20 words from a source, I also need to incorporate 20 or more words of my own words to discuss what I have just used. Okay, but we will practice. Remember last week these are some of the sources that we pulled out from the online library last week. So one of them is this: intrinsic motivation is defined as the doing of an activity for its inherent satisfaction rather than for some separable consequence. When intrinsically motivated, a person is moved to act for the fun or challenge entailed rather than because of external products, pressures, or reward. I understand that when you paraphrase, it really is a bit difficult at first, but as you do it more often, I promise you that it will get better. It will get better. According to our video, the first thing that we need to do actually is to just read it over and over, 2, 3, 4 times, 5 times. We need to read it and really understand what the authors in this case are talking about. And for me, my tip is that I look for those keywords. Okay, I look for those keywords. And for this one, the keywords that I found are doing an activity, inherent satisfaction, for the fun or challenge, and it's not because of external products, pressures, or reward. So when you're doing an activity, it's for inherent satisfaction or for the fun or challenge. My next step is to find for some synonyms of these words or phrases. Okay, it is okay if you look for synonyms, because we need to find other words that we can use aside from this. What's not okay is for you to just change all the words, the entire paragraph. When you just change all the words and just use thesaurus, that's not acceptable. That's still called plagiarism. What we need to do is for us to look for some words and rearrange this so that we can retell what the authors are saying using our own words. So after I identified those keywords and key phrases, this is how I came up with what I came up with. An intrinsically motivated person finds gratification and enjoyment in working on a task and not on any remuneration. And if you notice, I removed the page number. I removed the quotation marks and I removed the page number. Let's go back. Over here, there's quotation marks because it's a direct quote and there's a page number. But once you paraphrased it, you can remove the quotation marks and you can remove the page number. Another pointer, I really don't have to include everything. I just need to include some of the keywords and make it shorter so that I can retell what the authors are saying in a more succinct way. Okay, you really don't have to translate and rearrange and include everything. Just get the main idea. As long as you are being faithful to the original idea of the source. Okay, don't pick and choose tapos mawawala yung original intent ng authors. Okay, that's not good. We need to make sure that we are still being faithful to what the authors are saying. So you see the difference. These are two sentences, and then I just made it into a one short sentence. It's a little bit difficult at first, but with practice and as you do more discussion posts and written assignments, and as I check them, I guarantee you it'll get better. It will get better. Okay. Let's do one quick exercise. If you can open your Word and let's paraphrase this. And you can put it in the chat box. Where's the chat box? Wala yung chat box, hindi lumalabas. Maybe can somebody send a message sa chat box? Medyo mahirap ang Alt H. Or maybe I need to stop share. Lumabas na siya. Anyway, ito yung sa akin. Ano yung nakuha ninyo? Type ko dito ulit. Type ko sa chat box siguro. Ito. Turn your wounds into wisdom. Let's paraphrase that. One sentence lang. Another pointer pala in paraphrasing, there are no specific way of paraphrasing. You really don't have to follow what I did. Okay, there's different ways of retelling a story. So don't think na yung sa inyo mali, yung sa akin na tama, no. Okay, there's different ways of retelling a source. Like what I said, as long as you're being faithful to what's written. Learn from your experience, yes. Ano pa? How can we paraphrase that? Turn your wounds into wisdom. Ano yung wounds na, na sinasabi ni ano? Wisdom came from wounds, yes. Pero remember, we need to change the wordings. Kasi if we use the same wordings, then we'll still get similarity results pa rin sa anti-plagiarism software. So it's not just me rearranging the words, but we also need to change the words themselves. Yung wounds na tinutukoy niya, di ba, yung mga pains, negative experiences, yung mga ganun. So just try to think of what are those wounds. Tapos ano ibig sabihin ng wisdom? Learn, grow, di ba? Grow, ano pa? Yung mga synonyms ng wisdom. Yung mga yon. So look for those synonyms and then retell the statement. Okay, so Ray, sabi niya, learn from your experience. I think we are similar. Kasi sa akin, learn from your pains. Learn from bad experiences. Okay, guide your future, yeah. That's okay too. So ganon lang siya, okay? Let's do another one. Ito medyo mas mahirap na ng konti ha. Ito. Another source that we took from last week. We pulled this out. Sabi niya, the intrinsic motive is the accounting for internal satisfaction and considering volunteering as a consumption good, and the extrinsic motive is treating volunteering as an investment instrument whose returns are the expected external rewards. They is talking about the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation of volunteers. Okay, these are for volunteers. So why do people volunteer? What are their intrinsic motivations and their extrinsic motivations? Intrinsic from within, extrinsic from external, yung mga motivation. So let's try to paraphrase this into one sentence, and remember to remove the quotation marks and the page number. I'm going to pause the recording while we're doing this.
Paper, each paragraph represents a separate idea. When thinking about paragraphs, it's important to think about how you'll organize and categorize your ideas and information into those paragraphs. The organization and focus of your paragraphs might be clear to you right away when you start writing a paper, or it may be something you'll refine as you write and revise your paper. For example, if you have a paper about 3 strategies for improving employee performance, you may be able to easily write 1 paragraph per strategy. But if you're writing a longer paper, or if you're writing about a more complicated topic, you might find that you will rearrange and develop your paragraphs as you write and revise. Either approach is okay, but just be aware that the extra refining might be necessary. It's smart to think about this ahead of time so you can build in time to revise your paragraphs and their focus and organization. Additionally, pre-writing activities like outlining can be very helpful for writers in envisioning their paragraph organization before they start writing. In the Writing Center, we use what we call the meal plan to help students conceptualize paragraphs. So let's talk a little bit more about the meal plan. The meal plan isn't a template for a paragraph. It doesn't mean each of your paragraphs should have 1 sentence per letter. All of your paragraphs won't have just 4 sentences in this particular order. Instead, think of the meal plan as a way to conceptualize paragraphs. This means that generally, each of your paragraphs should have each of these elements. M is the main idea, also called the topic sentence. This topic sentence introduces the focus of the paragraph, and normally it doesn't have a citation. This is because it doesn't include specific information from your sources, but is instead a general introduction to the paragraph. It's sort of like if you were introducing someone to a friend. You wouldn't just jump right into the details of their life story, but you'd give them a general introduction to get the conversation going, right? The same needs to happen in your paragraphs with this topic sentence. The E is the evidence, or the examples that you use to support and develop the main idea. This could include specific information about a theory or ideas in your field. It could also include statistics or findings from studies. Essentially, any sentence that you cite in the paragraph, because it comes from a source, is a piece of evidence. The A is the analysis. It connects your evidence back to the main claim for your readers through discussion. Think of analysis as your explanation of the evidence and your addition to the evidence. For example, maybe you are discussing the lack of broadband internet access in your state's rural areas. You might include statistics about how many people have broadband internet access. That would be your evidence. But then you'd want to explain why this statistic is important or what it means to your reader. That would be your analysis. And then the L is the lead out. We also sometimes refer to it as the concluding or wrap-up sentence of the paragraph. This last sentence is where you give closure to the paragraph. This might mean you repeat the main idea of the paragraph, similar to a conclusion paragraph, or you might combine some sort of wrap-up with some analysis, giving the reader an overall conclusion for the paragraph. The main point here is that you want to avoid an open ending to your paragraph, or ending your paragraph with evidence. Now that you've learned the basics of paragraphs and the meal plan, be sure to watch your next video, Examples of the Meal Plan, to learn how you can implement the meal plan in your own paragraphs.
You don't have to watch that. Okay. Um, so meal plan. We talked about this during our course overview several weeks ago. When you compose your paragraph in academic writing, even on your discussion post, you can use a meal plan as a format, but actually not a template. Sabi niya, it's not a template na you should do this, and then you should have this sentence, and then this sentence. It's just a format so that you have some ideas on what to include in your paragraph. But important, your first sentence should be the main thesis or a strong thesis statement that answers the question. Either answers the question or the first point of your paragraph. Minsan, if you are writing a research paper, for example, you're writing about what are the benefits of blended learning or flexible learning. Halimbawa, yun ang inyong topic. Tapos meron kayong evidence, so meron kayong first point ninyo ay more flexibility. Second point ninyo probably ay more creativity, encourages creativity. Tapos third is schedule management, something like that. So halimbawa tatlo ang points ninyo, it can be a paragraph on each point. So ang first point niyo kanina ay more flexibility para hindi masyado nape-pressure yung estudyante na they have to follow synchronous all the time. They can do self-paced study. So you will answer it using the first sentence of the paragraph should be your main thesis statement. Ano ba yung sasabihin niyo doon ay flexible learning allows the students to be able to study on a self-paced, something like that. Tapos, maglalagay kayo ngayon ng evidence. Dito na papasok yung mga paraphrases natin. The borrowed sources that we took from our online library last week, tapos pinaraphrase natin kanina, dito na ninyo ilalagay. Okay? You can use one evidence only, that's fine. Pero as much as possible, I encourage you to use at least two evidence kasi kailangan meron ding supporting evidence. Sometimes you can even use a contrasting evidence. Tapos, it is up to you to synthesize. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, we are supporting our main thesis statement with evidence para mapatunayan natin na hindi lang tayo nag-iimbento ng idea. Okay? This research already supports your idea. Then it follows with analysis. Ibig sabihin, this is where you will show your critical thinking skills. You will explain to your reader what your evidence is saying, and how they support your main thesis statement. Dito talaga papasok, being a researcher and PhD students, dito talaga lalabas yung inyong skills, analysis skills dito. And then always close it with a lead out or a concluding statement or a linking statement where you will lead them to your next paragraph if you want to. Okay? So, importante na don't close your paragraph with an evidence. Nakikita ko yun madalas, and even I, when I was a student, I've always done that a lot of times. Yung uumpisahan ko yung paragraph with an evidence, borrowed source, tapos at the end, borrowed source pa rin siya. Kung minsan naman, puro borrowed source lang din siya. Wala akong sariling content, wala akong contribution sa discussion na yun. And doon na papasok yung plagiarism. Kasi you didn't provide your own idea or your own work. You are borrowing just sources. Ganun. So let's take a look on some examples. So for example, on this one, the millennials have a desire to do good. Hindi lang sila lazy, hindi lang sila narcissistic, hindi lang sila focus sa kanilang sa kanilang gadgets. Actually, the millennials, they have the desire to do good. Yun yung kanyang main thesis statement. Tapos ito yung dalawang evidence. Okay, they are known, sabi ni Belcher, they are known as the purpose-driven generation, and they do their part and they do their part to make a difference in the world. Tapos another supporting evidence, Wordsworth discussed that millennials are staunch volunteers to social causes, and they present real apprehension about the state of the world. So gusto talaga ng mga millennials na makialam. Gusto nilang they want to participate. Kaya ang analysis dito, sabi niya, millennials yearn to do good deeds, and it is important for business leaders to understand this trait. Business leaders must provide for opportunities for the millennials to participate in efforts that address today's problems. That's the analysis. Okay, and then lead out or concluding the paragraph, involving millennial employees in corporate social responsibility programs can benefit both the organizations and the millennial employees. All you have to do is just put them together. Just put them together. Tanggalin lang yung main evidence, yung main idea, evidence, analysis, saka lead out, and that's your paragraph. Ganun lang siya. So that's your paragraph. This is the main thesis statement. Tapos meron siyang dalawang evidence, then the analysis, and a closing statement. You can also do an analysis after Belcher if you want to. After your first evidence, you can put a one-sentence analysis doon or explanation. Pwede din yun. And then follow it with another evidence. Minsan din, some people, they do contrasting evidence. Tapos ang sasabihin nila, si Belcher, sabi niya, ang mga millennials talaga gusto nilang makialam sa mundo. Pero according kay Wordsworth naman, ang mga millennials actually wala silang pakialam. They're very self-centered. Tapos nasa sayo na yun as a researcher to explain at how you're gonna analyze those two statements. So ang pwede mong sabihin doon, while some researchers agree that millennials are, they have the sense of purpose to change the world, some studies still think that they are not really that keen on taking part in social issues. Ganun. Tapos ano magiging lead out mo doon? Ang lead out mo doon, we need to view the millennials in a positive way, but at the same time help them get out more from their shell. Ganun siya. So it is important na hindi lang tayo basta naglalagay lang ng mga evidence without our own discussion. Okay? So, balikan lang natin, mayroong main idea, isang sentence lang siya, strong statement, followed by evidence, then your analysis, and just a concluding statement or concluding sentence. And then just put them all together. Okay? Let's practice. Let's practice. Ito, yung kaninang pinag-usapan natin about volunteers, intrinsic and extrinsic motivations. So ito sina Ryan and Desi at saka si Day. Gagawa kayo ng isang paragraph. Okay? Ang sasagutin lang ninyo, explain the volunteers' intrinsic and extrinsic motivations. Ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng, ano ba yung mga intrinsic motivations ng volunteers at saka extrinsic motivations nila? Tapos ito yung, you can use some of the paraphrases that we've already used earlier. Yung mga sinagot na ninyo, you can use those too. Let's try to do this in about probably 8 minutes. We'll try. Okay, I will also pause the recording. So I can see you all. Anybody wants to share their paragraph or at least what they're working on, even if they haven't completed the paragraph, that's totally fine too. We can see your progress. Kasi ano yun eh, yung 8 minutes medyo short. It's really short. Okay, yeah. People usually do things voluntarily according to Ryan and Desi. Yung year should be on parenthesis. Volunteerism brings self-satisfaction. Yeah. This idea tells us that people do not need external factors to be able to be satisfied. If we are talking purely about internal motivations, then this is okay. Pero if sometimes kasi people have different, actually not sometimes, a lot of times, people have different motivational factors eh. Some people, they find the volunteerism through the job itself, the satisfaction, extrinsic. But the other people, they do it because of the recognition or because they can put it on the resume or networking. For example, if they are unemployed, they do volunteer so they can network. And they will hope that if the organization would eventually hire somebody, that organization will hire them. So that's external motivation. Merong tangible expectation. Ganun. So we can discuss that. In people have different motivational reasons. Ganun. Pero wag lang tayo mag-focus lang doon sa ano. Kasi dito parang sinabi natin na there's no need for external factors to be able to satisfy. Actually, yung mga evidence natin na pinakita, maybe kalahati, hindi kailangan yung external, pero maybe kalahati naman, kailangan talaga nila external. Ganun. Kay Sir Vic, motivation through volunteerism, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation through volunteerism. First sentence needs to be a complete sentence po ha, kasi ito hindi siya complete sentence. Ano lang siya, fragment sentence. When a person volunteers for the fun or challenge of it rather than the reward of performing it, yun din, it's a fragment sentence po. Make sure na complete sentence yung, we always do in complete sentence. People felt more satisfied when performing volunteerism without compensation. Some people do, especially those with internal motivators. Pero some other people naman, kailangan talaga nila na external motivation para mag-volunteer. Some of them, prestige, gano'n, or meron silang external talaga na ano. Most of those talaga yung sa resume. Kasi importante pa rin ang volunteerism sa resume, especially if you want to get promoted or you want to advance in your career. Yeah, but this is really good starting point po talaga. It's really good. Kay Sir Ray, volunteering is a noble practice among social workers. Being a volunteer enables individual to help and share with others the spirit of being a socially responsible citizen, according to Day, a good citation. Intrinsic motivation is the enjoyment to contribute a worthwhile deed, while extrinsic motive of volunteerism expects recognition in return. Okay. Sir Ray, I will put a period po doon para hindi masyadong mahaba yung sentence. Tapos, furthermore, pwede ka na yung transition, kasi we can use transition words in it. Furthermore, or according to, or Ryan and Desi supported Day, ganon. Transition. Ryan and Desi good use of the word of the end kasi kapag lumabas siya ng parenthesis, dapat spelled out yung end. Ryan and Desi stated that volunteers tend to enjoy satisfying enjoyment intrinsically and reaping recognition extrinsically. This only suggests that there are many types of volunteers. Some volunteer for personal enjoyment without looking for appreciation. Others might do it the other way. Yeah. Yes, sir. You're there. I like it. Kay Ma'am Jonna, volunteers have two kinds of motivation. The intrinsic motive is volunteering with fulfillment, and the extrinsic motive is when you anticipate anything in return for the act done. Volunteerism as majority ponder is a wholesome deed that is given complimentary. However, volunteers do it either for self-contentment or self-benefit. Yeah. Tama po. Konting polish lang sa argument. Yeah. Volunteer mas majority ponder, medyo nahirapan pa akong ano yun, i-connect yun. Pero at least yung format talaga nandun po siya. Kasi yung majority parang ano parang we are claiming as measured na talagang majority. Ganun ba? Ma'am, I mean, you understand pa ano, pag sinabi ng majority kasi parang it's a measured opinion parang ganun if we do that, kailangan po natin ng ano ng another citation bakit sinabi natin na majority. Pero it's a good lead out. Individuals has Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Individuals has their own perspective for being a volunteer according to Ryan and Desi. Hindi ko na sasabihin kung sino nag-send kasi privately. Pag yung Ryan and Desi, palitan na natin yung ampersand ng spelled out na end kasi lumabas na siya sa parenthesis. According to Ryan and Desi, intrinsic motivation is about self-fulfillment and not to expect anything in return for their good deeds. These persons have a pure heart. Again, pure heart is not academic. Okay, it's a creative writing. So, palitan natin yung pure heart. Yeah. And they're doing such actions to lend a hand and self-satisfaction. But I like the paragraph though. Actually, I love the paragraph. Yun lang, palitan lang natin yung pure heart kasi that's not academic word. I love it though.
I'm fond of creative writing.
Yes, ma'am, me too. I love creative writing. Kaya lang sometimes kasi ano yun hindi allowed sa academic writing. Kay Ma'am Emmy, the knowledge of what causes humans to act can help us manage our employees effectively. Okay. As stated by, ditanggalin natin yung authors sa parenthesis. An intrinsically motivated person does things for enjoyment and gratification, while an extrinsically motivated person does things for tangible benefits. Yes. This was further affirmed by Day in his statement that a person could be motivated to volunteer on his own initiative. Blah, 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 understand to this. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Melanie, intrinsic motivation is the essential content of an activity for its satisfaction. A person is moved. Okay, a person is moved is passive voice. Is moved to act for the fun if external ano pa yun? Products measured or okay. Products measured or reward, I think that's word for word. So hanap tayo ng ibang words. The essential motive is internal satisfaction of consumption of resources and extrinsic content. Okay. Ma'am Melanie, you are there. I know hindi mo pa natapos. Ang susunod na dyan ay analysis. But you're there po. You're there. Kasi I know 8 minutes hindi kaya talaga. Kay Ma'am Ina, intrinsic motivation is the action of doing something you love without anything in return. Well, extrinsic motivation is an action of doing something not for the sake of other but to gain reward. According to Day, tapos 2018, parenthesis po ha, 2018. Intrinsic motive is an inner satisfaction as we consider volunteering a consumption good. Yung consumption good, palitan din natin kasi nandun na siya like what I said, sabihin natin contentment, ganun. Satisfaction as we consider volunteering for our own contentment or for the joy of it. Extrinsic motivation is an external satisfaction that we consider volunteering as a tool to gain rewards. Again, yung tool to gain rewards, palitan lang natin siya, hanap tayo ng ibang phrase pa sa tool to gain rewards. Be a process that initiates, guides, and shows behaviors in volunteering. Yeah. Tapos, I know kulang pa yung time, maybe isa pang sentence analysis or read out. Ma'am Ina. Okay. Ma'am Leila, people are motivated, whether intrinsic or intrinsic, for the purpose of internal satisfaction. Mukhang kulang pa. She's working on it. Ma'am Divine, volunteering includes the desire to help others. Intrinsic motivation gives a person internal contentment, like doing things to others without expecting something in return, while extrinsic motivation helps others for a purpose. Extrinsic motivation helps others for a purpose, parang intrinsic po siya. Parang intrinsic siya. If I want to help others for a purpose, that's intrinsic din po. Pero yeah, kailangan pa ng analysis. Ano ma'am? Kasi wala tayong masyadong time. Kay Ma'am Lourdes, volunteers are greatly focused on intrinsic motivations rather than extrinsic. Ma'am, you need kailangan mo ipagtanggol mo ito. Pagtatanggol mo ito, ma'am. You can if you find sources talaga, you can. Actually, you can. Especially if you are doing studies on a certain population or certain demographics, you can po. Actually, you can do that. Job attitude and motivation differences between volunteers and employees. It's a fragment sentence po, ma'am, ha? Kompletohin po natin yung sentence na yan. It was expected that volunteers would report greater intrinsic, social, and kaya pala naghanap si ma'am ng ibang source niya. Yung source niya, yun ang sinabi talaga na there are volunteers talaga report more on intrinsic talaga. I would believe that kasi if you volunteer talaga, maniniwala talaga ako na a lot of volunteers, majority talaga, it's for personal satisfaction. I would believe.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. I would be very interested to see Ma'am Lourdes' discussion about this. Kasi tama nga naman, it's a very strong thesis statement at the beginning, and then she followed it up with a source na according to the study na nakuha niya, pag pinag-uusapan ng volunteers, mostly talaga, sila, more on intrinsic. It's just the desire to help others. Not even volunteers. I've read last week a research study about people working in non-profit organizations. Even people working in non-profit organizations, it's more on intrinsic talaga sila. At saka yung organizational citizenship, that means yung connection nila sa organization nila. So kahit hindi sila masyadong binibigyan ng compensation compared to private companies na mas mataas ang compensation, people still work in non-profit because of those internal motivations. Well, congratulations everybody. I love what I'm seeing. You are getting the confidence po, no? In paraphrasing and in creating this. And I hope na as you continue to do this, sa ating discussion, especially discussions every week, we create a lot of paragraphs. I wish and I'm very optimistic and confident that you will get stronger po talaga. Ang pinakamatagal gawin talaga, mag-search ng source. Talaga. So just use JS Store, use yung EBSCOhost, Google Scholar. Mga government websites, you also use them. Okay? Yun ang matagal gawin. Kaya I suggested last week, save those articles. Gumawa na kayo ng folders ninyo, i-label ninyo, gumawa kayo ng spreadsheet para yung mga nasa-search ninyo hindi sayang. Save them, put some keywords para if you need them on your future assignments or your dissertation, you can easily retrieve them. Tapos, ang susunod na medyo matagal gawin lang din yung paraphrasing. Kasi you need to read the idea over and over and over. Tapos, di ba sabi sa video, try to not to look at that source and try to rethink using your own words. Ganun. Tapos, let's look for keywords din na pwede natin palitan and then restate it. Rearrange the the sentence and restate it using our own words and cite properly. Okay. Questions po. Let's take about 5 minutes po for questions before we let you go. I don't want to take much of your time po kasi it's weekend eh. Sino po may tanong? Or suggestions or mga tips na realize nila na pwede nilang i-share?
Pwede sponsor ng search engines para sa mga sources. Kasi yung JSTOR saka yung EBSCO halos wala pong makuha, sir. Saka,
no? Yeah.
Sir.
Pwede din, kaya lang, like what I said, kailangan make sure it's credible. Kapag mga websites, a lot of them, hindi talaga sila credible. Isa pa, na kailangan ko kayo i-warning, maraming lalabas din sa website na akala mo mga research papers, pero they're published on predatory journals. Remember that word, predatory journals. Marami kasing dyan mga journals na they are predatory, hindi sila as scholarly as yung mga talagang nakukuha natin from ProQuest, EBSCO host, mga ganun. So, be aware din tayo. They claim na peer-reviewed pa rin sila, pero be aware din tayo kung anong klaseng journal, saan sila nakapublish, kasi marami din talaga dyan mga predatory. Kung matalas ang mata ng committee ninyo, pag nag-dissertation na kayo, they might see it na actually, it's not peer-reviewed. Actually, this is from a predatory journal. Makatanggalin lang nila. So, isa din yun. Pero absolutely, if you want to search on the website, search it on the website. Kung may nakita kayo mga articles, just make sure din na very recent din po ha, at least within the last 5 years, as much as possible, you can use those. Pero ang Scholar yata, medyo maraming nakukuha din eh, pag sa Scholar. Google Scholar. Sino pa po? Ma'am Jonna?
Yes, sir. When do we actually use the meal plan ba, sir? Kasi I was just wondering kung halimbawang possible po ba kami na mag-create ng isang paragraph using our coming from our own, or kailangan po talaga every paragraph na gagawin namin is mayroong citation?
Good question. Sa discussion post, hindi naman. Sa discussion post. Kasi ang discussion post, it's like talking to the class. Di ba pag mag-recitation naman, di naman bawat recitation merong evidence. Kasi it's just talking, parang talking na pero written lang siya. So hindi naman lahat ng I think some of my responses naman sa inyo, may mga paragraphs ako na walang evidence. Ganun. Hindi naman. Pero if you claim something though, kailangan lagyan mo talaga ng evidence if you claim something. For example, si Ma'am Lourdes nga sabi niya, volunteers are greatly focused in intrinsic. Pag yun lang ilalagay mo, kailangan mo lagyan ng evidence kasi kung hindi, para maging opinion lang siya.
Thank you, sir. So, ibig sabihin, sir, ang meal plan po is applicable siya when we are using a citation. Pagka sarili na namin, kahit according sa flow na gusto po namin sabihin. Tama po ba, sir?
Sa discussion, if you are writing a research paper and dissertation, hindi naman pwedeng maraming paragraph doon na walang citation kasi hindi siya opinion paper eh. Hindi siya opinion paper,
sir.
it's a research. Sa mga written assignments ninyo, conclusion, di na kailangan ng citation, ganun, or introduction, kung i-introduce mo lang kung ano yung topic ng paper mo, mga ganun. Mga concluding or mga transition paragraphs, mga ganun. Pero yung pinaka-meat of your discussion sa paper, kailangan mo talaga ng citation. Sino pa po? Yung hindi makakatulog pag hindi nagtanong.
Sir, ako may isa pa.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Sir, kasi di ba may kumukuha tayo ng mga sinasabi ng mga nasa journals. Tapos, kung halimbawang nire-write na rin siya ng ibang researcher and they are also following the meal plan, paano po namin malalaman yung difference nung M at saka dun sa E? Kung hanggang saan lang yung kukuhanin namin? Ay, nakuha niya.
Hindi po. Again, pakiulit po.
Wait lang po. Ay, nasa na ba? Ayun. Halimbawa, sir, dun sa, nagre-research kami ng citation.
Okay.
Tapos yung palang first sentence is opinion noong writer. and then the second sentence is coming from another writer.
Mm.
Paano po namin ma-differentiate na kung mula saan mula saan yung kukuhanin namin na galing dun sa original author? Or pwede po namin siyang kuhanin tapos isa-cite na lang namin yung new researcher. Tama po ba?
Oh, so yung parang source within the source, parang ganon.
Yes, sir, parang ganon.
Even yung first sentence ng author na kinukuhanan ninyo, you can cite it kasi yung following sentence naman niya, may supporting evidence din naman siya eh. So you can cite it.
Okay,
Pangalawa, the reason why you can cite it kasi peer-reviewed na siya. So it's been peer-reviewed by scholars in the academe. So kahit walang citation dun sa gawa niya, you can use it. Kasi it's considered as acceptable na siya, at academic na siya. Yeah.
Ayan, sir. Thank you, sir.
Actually, ang iniwasan natin kasi yung, for example, yung Gaspar 2016 as cited in Nilo, ganyan po ay cited kasi yung mga secondary. We can do that maybe 1 or 2 very sporadically, pero you can actually cite na yung pinaka-source mo. You can do that. You can cite it. Kahit hindi galing sa kanila, pwede na lang sila na din ang i-cite mo.
Okay po. Thank you po.
Sino pa po? Those are good questions.
Sir, yung...
Yes, sir.
Saan kuha ng sa abstract or sa discussions na lang?
Ang abstract po, yeah. Go ahead, sir. Medyo mahina po eh.
Sir, pwedeng sa abstract lang kami pumulot or dun sa discussion?
Actually, okay lang din sa abstract kumuha. Okay lang din po doon. Kasi yung abstract naman parang summary na yun ng author eh. Pwede din po kayo kumuha sa abstract. Tapos i-cite nyo na lang din yung author. Pati sa introduction niya, ganun. Pwede pa kayo kumuha doon.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Ano ba po? See, alam na ninyo kung saan kayo kukuha talaga. Yung you know how to, where to look for sa mga articles.
Kasi sir, yung iba, abstract lang ang nakakitaw, no?
Yun lang po yung lumalabas, sir eh.
Oo, dahil yun lang lumalabas. Yeah, pwede naman pa kayo kumuha doon, pero...
Sa Gator, yun lang. May budget lang.
Oo, kaya dapat talaga, lalo sa EBSCO-host, kiniklik ko yung full text eh. Full text. Kasi ang risk naman kapag sa abstract lang, baka ma-misunderstand natin talaga yung, kasi ang abstract very concise lang na summary ng paper eh, pero baka ma-misunderstand natin yung, di ba? Baka meron lang misunderstanding doon na hindi naman pala rin yung pagkakasulat talaga ng author. So kung abstract lang yung lumalabas, siguro medyo limit lang din natin. Huwag tayong masyadong umaasa lang din sa abstract. Ano pa? Huwag lang masyadong umaasa din. Siguro limit lang din natin kasi baka yun nga. Baka merong misunderstanding doon. Hindi natin talaga maintindihan yung yung the whole research na ginawa ng mga authors. Anybody else po? If you have other questions, don't hesitate po na i-chat na lang sa ating Facebook and then I'll be happy to answer. Pero again, my appreciations for being here tonight. I know everybody's so busy. Maghapon kayo nagklase, tapos may mga last minute pa webinar pa sa Wesleyan. And you're still here, so thank you so much. Next week, we will do APA naman. Magpa-practice tayo ng APA. Magpa-practice tayo mag-cite, mag-in-text citations, siya ka gumawa ng references. Ng mga most used na mga references po sa APA. Kung may tanong na kayo, ahead of time, write it para mapag-aralan natin at masagot na natin next week. Okay po. Last chance. Ma'am Lourdes. Yes, ma'am.
No, I'm just saying thank you, sir. But actually, I'm having a hard time looking for references. To be honest with you, I'm not used to it. No, most of the communications that I've been doing is purely office memorandum and some, yeah. So when it comes to writing, like it is scholarly writing like this, talagang, and also I really do not know where to search my source, no. So the only source that I have, that I got this afternoon, is the Google Scholar. Aside from that, I just do not know where I could search more of the references.
Opo, sa
That's where,
Canvas, ma'am, I posted a 3-minute video on how to use EBSCO-host and JS Store po. So you can
okay, sige. Yeah, okay, thank you so much. I missed that kasi that was viewed yata, or yeah, given to the students previously.
Nasa Canvas din po. You can always go sa Canvas.
Okay, yes. I will review it.
Apo, make sure po alam niyo yung ano ha, yung ay nandoon naman po yata, pinost ko din doon yung login information ng Wesleyan sa EBSCO host at JS Store. Nandoon din po. And then try niyo po mag-practice po mag-search. Pero like tulad po ng sinasabi nila, medyo mahirap talaga mag-search kasi hindi siya as extensive talaga.
Yes.
Opo. Pero Google Scholar, you can find a lot po sa Google Scholar.
Okay. Oh. Thank you so much.
I won't keep you long. Souvenir na lang po tayo. Mag-picture tayo sandali. And then I will let you go po. So if you could turn on your videos. Anybody still connecting po sa video? Wala na? Okay. Ngiti kayo ha. 3, 2, 1. Okay, send ko lang sa Facebook sandali ha. Oh, I'm still recording pala, sabi niya. I need to stop recording.